Britain's new Prime Minister Andy Burnham is stepping up support for Kyiv, urging Ukraine's allies to tap their air defense stocks for Patriot interceptors. His intervention comes as Ukraine warns it needs at least 300 Patriots to defend against Russian attacks through winter. Burnham says he is likely to travel to New York in September for the UN General Assembly, in what would be his first US visit as Prime Minister. He and other European leaders aim to press President Trump to allow Ukraine access to US Patriot interceptor stocks. Russian missile strikes are driving Britain's push to secure Patriot interceptors for Ukraine. Burnham says allies must do everything possible to dig into their own air defense inventories and work with partners beyond the coalition. Britain is turning to Washington as Ukraine's interceptor shortage deepens. Zelensky says supplies have fallen even while Russian missile strikes have increased, with Kyiv seeking a package of at least 300 Patriot missiles before winter. Russian cruise and ballistic missile attacks are keeping Kyiv under pressure. Burnham plans to use a possible September US trip to lobby Trump on Patriot access, while European allies seek a joint solution before winter. UK Prime Minister Andy Burnham says he may travel to New York in September, around the United Nations General Assembly. He says the final details of the trip have not yet been confirmed. Burnham is expected to press President Trump on Ukraine's need for Patriot interceptors, as European leaders seek US access to missiles needed for Kyiv's air defense. Burnham says the likely New York trip would take place around the UN General Assembly, but its schedule and arrangements are not yet finalized. Burnham says European allies want Ukraine to gain access to US Patriot interceptor stocks before winter, when Russian attacks on civilian and energy infrastructure could intensify. Zelensky has repeatedly urged allies to replenish Patriot interceptor stocks. He says every interceptor can save lives and has requested at least 300 for the coming winter. Kyiv says it needs more Patriot interceptors to counter Russian cruise and ballistic missiles and protect critical infrastructure. Burnham made the comments after co-chairing his first Kyiv meeting of the Coalition of the Willing, a group of 34 countries backing Ukraine's security. Burnham held talks with President Volodymyr Zelensky during his first overseas trip as Britain's Prime Minister, which coincided with Ukraine's Independence Day. UK and Ukraine signed a landmark defense agreement on August 24 to develop new artificial intelligence technologies using battlefield data gathered during the war. The deal gives Britain access to Ukraine's Avengers labs and its vast collection of real-world battlefield imagery and sensor data. UK universities and defense companies will reportedly become the first non-Ukrainian users of the Avengers Labs platform. Avengers Labs has collected around 5 million battlefield frames from cameras, infrared sensors, and other surveillance systems across Ukraine. The dataset includes imagery of tanks, artillery, air defense systems, infantry, and aerial targets captured during combat operations. Ukraine has already used the data to train AI systems capable of identifying military targets automatically and in near real time. Ukraine's defense ministry said the trained AI system could detect around 70% of enemy targets in battlefield imagery. Britain and Ukraine had already begun pilot projects using the battlefield dataset to develop new AI-powered military technologies. One UK trial reportedly used Ukrainian battlefield data to transform fiber optic cables into sensors capable of supporting AI-based detection. The agreement will combine Ukraine's combat-derived data with Britain's artificial intelligence expertise to develop future battlefield technologies. The deal comes as President Volodymyr Zelensky continues pressing Western allies for greater military support against Russia.
In short, Ukraine was supported militarily today, with packages as well as energy packages. Thank you, Alex, for the ADMs and all our friends for funding some things. Thank you for funding some things. Thanks for the additional funds for drones. What were we talking about? Support for Ukraine will continue. Air defense is a priority. We are moving in two directions. We are searching for and purchasing PAC-3 through Pearl and other formats, and we are all working on accelerating the FAI project. We are grateful to Britain. This was a first visit, and we thank the Prime Minister for being with us. We also thank Emmanuel Macron and Friedrich Merz. He was also online, wrapping up our meeting. We will all work to defend Ukraine before winter. It is a challenge in terms of energy. Europe is preparing a new credit tranche. A new tranche of 6.1 billion in credit. This is a tranche of European support. Then our Prime Minister participated, informing about financial needs. This is also a serious challenge concerning the details and what the mathematics of this war is. We will all work on this deficit. France, led by President Emmanuel Macron, also suggested working more intensively on the shadow fleet and proposed a separate meeting. I think Europe must be at the negotiating table in any case. Although, to be honest, many leaders who were present and communicated today are indeed skeptical about whether Putin is ready for any negotiations at present. And we also appeal to all leaders with a request that we do not have pauses at such a moment of challenges, pauses between our meetings, long pauses between meetings of the coalition of the willing. Regarding the blocking of our maritime corridor, the blockage by drone and missile strikes from the Russian, we work daily and 3-4 times larger than today. Today, there is no complete blockade. There is an attempt at a total blockade, but 3 to 4 ships a day enter and leave Greater Odessa, despite the fact that they are striking the port infrastructure. We are considering several options. In principle, I have already spoken about this. This topic is being raised. Several countries will work on this. There will be a negotiation track with the Russians.
You know that we have certain requirements and all member states and all candidate countries must fulfill these criteria. However, given the geopolitical priority of this issue, it means that the European Union and the candidate countries must feel the urgency of this issue, that we need to work faster in order to meet the criteria and move forward. We can discuss and explore with the member states and the European Commission what exactly we can do. But first of all, we must fulfill what has already been agreed upon. We have already committed to, in particular, regarding the allocation of 19 billion euros to Ukraine. This is not a small amount. It's a large sum. 19 billion euros in support is what we are doing and will continue to do.
I would start by saying that while we were here celebrating Ukraine's Independence Day, last year, the situation for Ukraine was more challenging from a military, financial, and economic standpoint. Today, we are in the best position. There are 3 aspects that we need to address to end this war. First, it is to provide both military and financial assistance to Ukraine in order to increase Ukraine's ability to strike deep into enemy territory, or using drones or missiles, as this increases the cost of waging war for Russia. We can see this now, as 60% of the Russian population already expresses a desire to end this war, and the strikes on depots in the EU led to a 10% increase in this number. If you are wondering whether this is a feasible military strategy from Ukraine's perspective, I would like to say, it definitely is. It is the only way we can ensure Russia's participation in peace talks at the table. Additionally, what we discussed today is the financial cost of waging war for Ukraine, and it is certainly quite high, and we must find a solution to this, certainly.
For strikes, we have sufficient capacity to increase production. If we can increase production, then we will be able to carry out more strikes. Certainly, we have different types of drones that can hit targets from 300 kilometers to 3,000 kilometers, both drones and missiles. And this is a very excellent tool, and we already have very good, successful operations. Right now, they are spending nearly 300 billion on the war, while we have a deficit of 27 billion, and yet we are spending approximately 130 billion euros. This is a huge amount of money, but they are spending 330 billion. Thus, we need to be competitive in terms of the number of long-range strikes, not with missiles. We don't have that many missiles. But we have drones. We have the capabilities. But we need more money.
Upgrade your news experience with the all-new HT app. Download now.